this is how many people imagine a geisha: elegant, silent, feminine, and mysterious. These images, often shaped by Western films and operas such as Mandarin Butterfly and Memoirs of a Geisha, have become widely recognized representations of Japanese culture. But whose version of the geisha are we seeing? And whose voices are missing from these stories? This project explores the geisha as a cross-cultural case of representation, examining how power shapes whose voices are heard, amplified, or silenced.
It's just a little bit impressions or the words you can describe them.
I guess all I know is like from seeing them in movies. So just like the face makeup, the dress.
Movies and also what we were taught at school. Like I think it was in textbooks.
Yeah, like Western styles movie, right?
As this interview shows, many Western understandings of geisha do not come from direct experience, but from films, popular culture, and long-standing Orientalist narratives. These images are shaped by social semiotic conditions, such as exotic visual styles, gender stereotype, silent female figures, symbolic costumes, and romantic side storytelling. At the same time, they are supported by material conditions, including the global film industry, translation and media circulation, and unique power in cultural representation. In Orientalism, Edward said argues that the Oriental woman is not simply represented, but constructed through Western discourse. She is not allowed to speak for herself. Instead, she is spoken for, defined, and turned into a cultural image. But this is where subaltern theory helps us go further. According to writing on subaltern practice, the issue is not only that marginalized groups are misrepresented, but that their ability to produce meaning is structurally limited. Their voices are often translated, filtered, or replaced within dominant systems of knowledge. This is exactly what we see in Western representations of geisha. Geisha become highly visible as aesthetic objects, elegant, mysterious, and sometimes sexualized. But their own perspectives as cultural practitioners are largely absent. Their identity is not erased, but reauthored through Western frameworks. So the problem is not just misunderstanding. It is discursive structure in which representation itself becomes a form of power, deciding who can speak and whose voices is recognized as truth. But what if this image is not really about geisha at all, but about what others want to see in them? What if the version we recognize as real has actually been constructed from the outside? To see what has been left out, we need to move beyond this dominant story and turn to other voices and cultural contexts.
In contrast to those representations, documentary and cultural sources of Japan present a different image of the geisha.
A woman in a gorgeous kimono and striking makeup. This is a geisha. About 1,000 geisha are active today. Contrary to a misconception outside Japan, geisha do not engage in prostitution. Rather, they are skilled practitioners of traditional hospitality and performing arts. They also sing and dance to the music of the shamisen. And they amuse guests with age-old party games, such as the work of geisha. But the most important thing of all for geisha is the traditional arts that they perform at parties. They train in singing, dancing, and playing musical instruments. Other skills that geisha must master to entertain their guests include immaculate manners and graceful movements. That's why they study the tea ceremony, flower arranging, and other traditional arts, all under the guidance of prominent teachers. A geisha's schedule is packed with training from morning to evening. Then she attends banquets at night. It is common for a workday to finish after midnight.
To further explore this perspective, we turn to Ms. Yamazaki, a Japanese language teacher from Sapporo, currently working at a university in China. From her cross-cultural position, she offers a different understanding of the geisha, one shaped not by internal representation, but by lived cultural knowledge. Yamazaki-sensei, konnichiwa. I'm so glad to interview you here today. So our first question is, what is authentic geisha like in Japan?
Right. It is the geisha is a really professional occupation, and their role is to entertain people who is at the really formal traditional party, and they take long time to learn Japanese traditional dancing and Japanese traditional instruments, and they've got a certificate for it. And they are highly respected occupation, and we cannot take their photos on the street without permission. It's artist and also the professional of communication.
Yeah, I like the word artist. How do you think about the story of Madame Butterfly? Is there any deviation from real geisha image?
Yes, actually, there are. The story of Madame Butterfly kind of reflects the desire of the Western man towards the geisha should be like this or something. Geisha is really independent from men, both emotionally and financially. The biggest problem is to mix up with this contract wife and geisha. Geisha is an artist, performer, and highly professional kind of occupation, and I think this is the biggest problem.
This issue is not only about inaccurate representation, but about how meaning itself is produced. As Stuart Hall suggests, meaning is constructed through systems of representation. In Western films and operas, the geisha is not simply shown, but organized through signs such as costume, silence, posture, and narrative framing. These elements guide audiences to interpret the geisha as feminine, passive, and exotic. Edward Said describes this process as Orientalism, where the East is not only represented as it is, but constructed through a Western lens as something understandable and consumable. From the perspective of subtle practice, the key issue is not only misrepresentation, but control over meaning. As Spivak argues, being represented does not mean having a voice. Geisha are highly visible in global media, yet their identities are often shaped through internal frameworks. As Mahabab further suggests, communication systems organize whose voices are amplified and whose are constrained. In this case, geisha are seen, discussed, and interpreted, but not always on their own terms.
However, critical alone is not enough. Positive discourse analysis encourages us to examine how alternative meanings and forms of agency emerge within these systems. When Japanese documentaries, cultural practitioners, and educators explain geisha as trained performers and cultural professionals, they are not simply correcting an image, they are participating in a different process of meaning-making and knowledge production. From a subterm-practice perspective, this is significant because it shifts the condition under which meaning is produced. Instead of being defined externally, geishas are restrained within their own cultural, historical, and social context. These alternative discourse do not simply replace dominant representations, but challenge how authority over meaning is distributed, making space for more self-defined and context-based understandings.
In this project, I'm not trying to speak for geisha, but to analyze how voices are organized across different systems of representation. As Mahabab suggests, meaning is always shaped by the interaction between socio-semiotic systems and material conditions. My own understanding of geisha has been also influenced by media, virtual culture, and inherent narratives. I'm not outside the system, but part of the audience it has been shaped. This means the question is not simply what a geisha is, but who has authority to define what a geisha is. When one version of the story becomes widely circulated and accepted, it is not because it is neutral, but because it is supported by a broader system of representation and power. What we are seeing, then, is not only just cultural image, but a system that determines what can be seen, what can be believed, and whose voice is recognized as knowledge.